When we get to the societal level, though, because we're now trying to come up with truth that applies to many people, that could be applied to an entire town all at once. One truth, for example, may be everyone needs a mailing address. That in order to send and receive communication, in order to get notices from the government, in order to get items shipped to you that you might order by telephone or using your computer over the internet, there has to be an address through which the world can locate you and communicate with you and interact with you. And so, okay, if everyone needs an address, then we'll need a mail system, some group of people who are responsible for collecting the mail at one place and delivering it at another place. People who are responsible for picking up the packages and bringing them to your house and delivering them. Sometimes there are separate package companies, sometimes there's the United States Postal Service but in virtually every country around the world there's some equivalent of people who are professionally engaged in shifting messages and items from one place to another. So there's some sort of basic truth there, but it fluctuates quite a bit from one individual to the next. One person may have the mail delivered through a slot on their front door. Another person may have a mailbox by the end of the driveway. A third person might have to go to the post office with a key and get a post office box at the post office. Depending on what sort of delivery options are available. In some of your more remote areas of, northern Canada or Alaska, there may be things that are delivered by airplane, that are flown into areas because of how remote they are and how much distance has to be crossed. The problem with that, of course, is the expense of flying, of making that happen, would, in some instances, correspond to a higher cost for getting that message delivered because someone has to pay the fuel for the airplane. So I guess it comes down to that question of how important is communication. But no society can function without communication, because as soon as you have two people, you're at the beginning of creating a society, because you suddenly have two different ways of looking at things. And what we form in society, the truth we create collectively, is our agreements about how things are, what they mean, what we should do with them or about them. Every single traffic light anywhere in the country is an example, a symbol, if you will, of societal agreements to conduct our lives in a relatively harmonious fashion. That when the light turns red, that means I stop and you get to go. And when the light turns green for me, that I get to go and you have to wait. And collectively, the majority of us have agreed that this is a good way to harmonize our actions. And so the truth of our society is that the world is a shared space, first of all. That applies to so many things. The world is a shared space. It's not only here for just one of us or just a small group of us to where we can tell everyone else they have to cater or adapt to us. There needs to be a sense of mutual respect and an egalitarian society, some equality. Kind of the old maxim that we all take turns. Whose turn is it this time? The truth of a particular moment may be that it is his turn, not yours, or that it is your turn and not hers. Any number of things like that. But further on that level of society, though, one of the places humanity would typically look for truth is some sort of general publication. In times before the printing press, there might actually be a person called the town crier who would go around crying out the news so that everybody could hear it. There will be a meeting at such and such location tomorrow at 2 o'clock or tomorrow at high noon. A different army is invading and marching toward us, or a battle was won someplace, or the king and queen have had the queen has delivered a new child, so that now there is a prince or a princess about which to be concerned, or the king has died and the prince is now on tomorrow we're going to have a ritual where the prince is made the new king because the old king has died. All sorts of news that the people needed to know in order to keep their society functioning. If there was a famine or something interfered with the food supply, people would need to know that sort of thing. All of the people, not just one or two individuals. And so the town crier would go around and let people know the truth, as well as they could determine it, of the situation that might affect their lives. That the people in the next town over had experienced an earthquake, and so should we all go help them rebuild, because someday, if it ever happens to us, we'll want them to come help us. The truth of relationship in that example would be that there is a mutual belief in an exchange, that each side believes in helping the other when misfortune is experienced, because misfortune has a random way of picking on this person or that person. And no matter how careful someone is, eating the right things, building the best house, everything you could imagine, still they could wake up one morning and find themselves diagnosed with lung cancer, or any number of other things. They could do a simple gesture they've done every day for the last 20 years, going to the well in the village square for a bucket of water, in earlier times. And today, however, there's a problem. The well is just about dry because no rain has fallen in the last 2 months. That's another truth with which to deal, but it's a shifting context, because what's true today may not be true tomorrow. It may be true today that the well is dry because we haven't had any rain, but if it rains tomorrow, then the well will no longer be dry, and there will hopefully be enough water in there to meet all the needs. And so truth changes according to its context. It's very contextual.